Welcome to Masculinity in Conversation. My name is Kanoa. I use he and they pronouns, and I'm so excited because we're here talking with Jules Stracquadanio, one of my very closest friends who I'm really excited to talk to today. How are you doing? How are you feeling?
I'm feeling great. I'm excited to be here.
Good. You look great. This outfit is amazing.
Thank you. I did agonize over it last night.
Great,
so.
as you do when you have style as impeccable as you do.
Thank you.
I'm really thrilled. You know, we've known each other for a while now.
Yeah.
You stopped me on the street when I was walking my blind, deaf 17-year-old dog.
Yes, I did.
Just to say, your dog's so cute. Want to be friends.
I came in a little hot. I remember I came in a little hot, especially for a dog that has some sensory deficits. But
hey, man, you gotta do what you gotta do.
I adjusted pretty quickly.
Yeah. No, it was great. Do you want to tell us a little bit about you, who you are, and maybe some of the identities that you hold that are important for us to know about?
Yeah. Well, I'm Jules, and I use they and she pronouns. You crushed my last name, so thank you.
I tried.
Some identities that I hold. I am queer. I am non-binary. I am Sicilian. I am a parent. I'm a partner. And I'm a nurse. I'm a lot of things, I guess. And I'm also your really good friend.
Great, yes, yeah. Well, you know, you're here because you and I have had quite a few conversations about masculinity just over the course of our friendship. Mm-hmm. And I thought you were just a really important voice to bring into this conversation because of how fruitful those conversations have been. I'm curious, you know, speaking to today, what is your relationship to your masculinity today?
Yeah, it's very kind for you to say those nice things about me. Funny enough, I think that a lot of times I feel a bit like an imposter in this realm. It feels sometimes like I'm cosplaying masculinity.
It's a great way to put it. I think probably most of us are.
Right. Inherently, we probably are.
Yes, yeah.
And then on the other hand, I think that I'm like, wow, I'm also doing this so much better than other cis men.
Yeah.
So yeah, kind of holding both things there.
Yeah. Is there any place in particular where you feel that performance of masculinity?
Yeah. I think I have felt it in bar situations, like especially not like when we're not in queer bars. It feels like something in me kind of gets stirred up a little bit. I feel it also when I'm with some neighbors and friends that I watch sports with. Generally lots of cis men in those spaces, and it feels like there's always kind of like a competition of who knows more and who's clocked what on the field, even though none of us actually know what we're talking about, and we're not playing the game.
Well, I think that there is something there. You know, I know that some folks have done some research around the way that men use knowledge as power, and that's one of the reasons why men refuse to ask for directions, because it's a matter of giving up power and conceding power. So I think that you're absolutely right. There is something about the performative nature of demonstrating your knowledge of sports, especially in a group setting, you know, where you're watching a team that you love, or two teams battle it out. And,
right.
There's this other sort of battle happening on the other side of the screen, you know, where it's about you and your ability to compete amongst other masculine folks.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
And also makes so much sense.
Yeah.
I feel like power dynamics are a large part of masculine folks' interactions with each other sometimes. And also like makes sense why people mansplain all the time. So appreciate that.
It's about exerting power.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. And so it sounds like you feel that awareness of your masculinity, maybe especially outside of queer community.
Yeah.
You also became a parent
Yes.
within the last year, which
Yes.
is really exciting.
Yeah.
How has becoming a parent changed or shaped your masculinity?
Yeah. I think being a parent is also, being in like parent scenarios is also a place where it feels a little bit like an imposter, especially like in non-queer settings.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of my previous thoughts about what it meant to have strength, even as a parent, have been challenged since I've become a parent. I think I equated a lot of physical strength to masculinity, and what I've realized is that emotional and mental strength and resiliency is actually much more important as a parent, and also harder to access.
Yeah.
It's not something that you can, well, in some ways it's similar to strength, where you have to like practice and work on it all the time.
Yeah.
And if you're out of practice, it is not an easy thing to access emotional resiliency and regulation.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's been an interesting learning for me to really understand what is actual strength when it comes to parenting.
Yeah, that makes sense too. I think in some ways, developing and attaining physical strength is a little bit of an easier challenge than developing emotional resiliency.
Totally.
Right.
Totally
and so
agree.
when we think about things like holding babies for long periods of time, bending over, standing up for long periods of time, you're like, yes, I got it.
Right.
You know, I'm gonna
Right.
clock in, do my part.
Totally.
And then when it comes time to be resilient to not getting any sleep, dealing with a baby that won't stop crying, you know, night feeds, those kinds of things, it's much harder to, I imagine, to be the emotionally present parent that you want to be when you are low on reserves yourself.
Totally.
You know?
Yeah, it's a really intense thing.
Yeah.
And when Abby came home from the hospital, she was like really impacted physically. So a lot of the physical stuff fell on me as she was recovering. Yeah. And I was like feeling like I was crushing it in the beginning. And once Noah started to like be less of a blob, I really realized how much emotional regulation was needed. I needed to be emotionally regulated so that I could share my nervous system with her when she was dysregulated. Yeah. And that exchange is really important and also really hard when you haven't eaten, you haven't slept, you haven't done the things that keep you mentally in tip-top shape. Yeah. Yeah, so that's been a challenge.
We didn't talk about this before, but it sort of makes me wonder if, what am I trying to say? Being sort of forced into this situation where you're having to reconcile maybe these misconceptions that you had about what strength and resiliency is, right? The physical versus the emotional. Did it also put you in a situation where you found yourself thinking about your parents more? And maybe especially like your dad, your like more masculine like parent, and what co-regulation might have looked like for you as a kid?
Oh my gosh, so much. All of those things come up when you're in it, and it's quite like cathartic actually to like relive these things that you've already went through, and now you're reliving it on the other side. So yeah, definitely thought about it a lot, and in some ways I think made me have a little bit more empathy for my mother, because I don't know if this is like fair to say, but my hunch is that my dad probably wasn't as good at the emotional regulation aspect, and so a lot probably fell on her. And I imagine that she felt kind of alone in that not being fulfilled.
Yeah.
I think my dad filled a much more traditionally masculine role, especially like at that time in his life. He's evolved a bit as a person, but like getting up, going to work, trying to be financially stable, and those sort of things is what he was bringing.
Yeah.
And I think
being like a material provider.
Correct. Yeah, definitely material provider vibes. And the expectation was for my mom to really handle the rest of it.
Yeah.
And how can you handle that on your own?
Yeah.
How can you process that on your own?
Yeah.
You really can't.
Yeah. Well, it's really hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, that makes sense that someone would be overwhelmed by having to take on that much emotional labor and to take on the burden of being a singular provider of like co-regulation and regulation for a child. Are there times in particular when you really feel that pull to show up regulated and grounded for Noah?
Yeah. I think the challenge is that it's so often that you feel pulled to do it. I think where I've struggled with it recently is with Noah starting Solid Foods. Mm-hmm. Life was great when all she did was drink a bottle.
Yeah. Nothing to choke on.
Nothing to choke on.
Yeah.
You know, not really worried about an allergy.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And, you know, we've been thrown a few of those things. So I think that I've had a lot of emotional dysregulation that I did not clock when I was sitting at the table. Yeah. And it took Abby to be like, hey, this is supposed to be fun, and you are making it not fun.
That must have been hard to hear.
Yeah, it was hard to hear. It was hard to hear, and also
because you like to be fun. You are fun.
I'm the fun guy.
Yeah.
I am fun, and so to hear that I was like being a fun sucker sucked.
Yeah, right.
So I know that I am projecting anxiety at the table when we're eating, and I don't want to give that to Noah. That's not hers to hold. Mm-hmm. You know, it's mine, and I need to process it, and I need to handle it. So having a partner who was able to call that out for me and really like encourage me to look at it, so that I don't do that to her. It's not easy.
No, I don't imagine that is easy.
Yeah, it takes some, grounding and some deep breaths while we do it. And it's honestly a lot of acting. It's a lot of like
fake it till you make it.
Fake it till you make it.
Wow.
On the inside, my blood pressure and my heart rate are probably through the roof. Okay. And I am I'm like the duck on the surface.
Oh, I see.
Who's swimming very smoothly.
I was
but
like, who's
underneath,
the duck?
You don't see the little feet going.
I got you. Okay.
That's what it looks like.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're trying to exude confidence even if you don't feel confident.
Totally.
Yeah, that's hard.
Which is also a little bit of a masculinity mindfuck, if you think about it.
Tell me more.
Just, I think that there's a lot of false confidence that masculine people have access to that maybe some people who aren't masculine or masculine identifying don't have access to. And it low-key can be dangerous, right? Like if people think that they are overconfident to do something, it's not a great look if you really don't have the skills to do something. So it's kind of interesting to like hold both things.
Yes. Yeah, it's like this presumed confidence or competence combined with risk-taking behaviors.
Absolutely.
Can really backfire.
Absolutely.
Are there times when you let yourself be a mess and not a rock and not have it all together?
Yeah, I think the way that when I used to really allow myself to kind of be a mess, I'm a pretty anxious flyer. So I would sort of spiral down that path. Yeah. But now when we fly with Noah, I feel like I have to be the tough. We're actually, Abby and I are both anxious flyers.
Great.
So it's not great. So it does feel like I need to be like this tough rock with Noah when we are flying together. That was a time when I used to do it. I think that now you really have to build in time intentionally to let myself kind of like, sometimes when I'm in the shower, that's my time to just kind of let it all out.
Yeah. Do some shower crying.
A good old ugly shower cry.
Yeah.
Is so important.
Yeah. Something about not being able to discern the difference between water and tears, I think, is really cathartic. Right?
Yes. That's 100% it.
Yeah. You can't, it's like you almost like can't track
right.
how much is like leaving your body. So I hear you saying that you have to be intentional about making space for yourself to be a mess and to sort of fall apart sometimes. What space have you made recently for yourself to do that?
Yeah, I would like to say that I am so emotionally intelligent and all the things.
Which you are.
Right, but also it's not like, oh, I realize that I need to have time to fall apart right now and I need to build this into my day. Right. Oftentimes it's bubbling and bubbling and bubbling, and it gets to a point where you need to release the valve.
Totally.
And the most recent time that's happened is I just went through an IVF egg retrieval, where I was on a shit ton of hormones. And not super gender affirming hormones. Yeah. Which is an important aspect of this.
Yeah. Can you tell me maybe a little bit more about what didn't feel gender affirming about it?
Totally, yeah. So, I mean, I guess I'm sort of guessing here, but I think I was on different variations of like estrogen for, all of the follicle stuff. And it just made me feel so girl in every way. Yes. There's like no better way to say it.
Yeah. Really sort of like moved you further away from your very firmly, confidently non-binary identity.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And I did feel like pretty wild. I definitely felt like I was on an emotional roller coaster. Interestingly enough, I also think that the moment I started taking those hormones, I felt entitled to like a lot of care, a lot of like being cared for, even before things really started to impact me. Yeah. Which I also think is interesting because it's like, oh, now I am putting this thing in my body that means I'm allowed to have feelings.
Oh, interesting.
It means I'm allowed to be sensitive.
Yes. You're in your baby girl era.
I was in my baby girl era. Yeah. And I couldn't be in my baby girl era because we have a literal baby. Yeah.
For real.
Yeah. So it was really hard, and I think that I had a hard time communicating that to Abby. And it was leaking out. It was just leaking out. And it finally came to a head. And I know that it was really coming from a place of insecurity of like, I needed to ask for a little bit more care. Yeah. And
which probably, I imagine, goes against maybe a little bit of your masculine identity, right? Because like masculine people don't ask for help or care.
100%. Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I am traditionally the caretaker.
Yeah.
And I'm good at it, I'm also a nurse, so it's like very natural for me to want to do that. And also, I am entitled to care too, and we deserve care and love.
Yeah, totally.
And it just took a second to get there.
And it sounds like, that. I mean, you were also having such a different experience, right? Because you were able to show up and care for Abby at a time when you didn't have a child, and your experience was so different as the parent going through an egg retrieval when there was a literal baby around.
Totally.
It was like, I'm baby. And you're like, no, I'm baby.
With a baby competition in our house.
Right. Yeah, and that fear of like not being cared for sounds so relatable. I imagine lots of folks struggle to know what to do with that feeling,
Absolutely.
Yeah, because you were also, it meant that you were probably going to appointments alone because Abby was having to be there with Noah.
Totally.
And having to work through a lot by yourself.
Yeah, it was a lot of processing by myself. and just like going through the motions of it alone was just kind of scary. The whole thing, I mean, medical shit is scary.
Yeah.
No matter what. And it did feel, I felt sad being alone.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like maybe it also replicated some of the dynamics that you found yourself having a lot of empathy for your mom around when she felt alone.
Totally.
You know?
It's a really interesting point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something about feeling isolated and alone in caretaking in particular feels really bewildering and disorienting, you know?
Yeah. It's a really interesting connection that you just made for me.
Well, I mean, nothing like some outside perspective to really see things a little bit more clearly. I mean, you know, I'm on the outside, you know. So we've talked a little bit about your mom's role in your family and your awareness maybe about the way that she navigated patriarchy. I want to hear a little bit more about maybe the observations that you made about your dad and the other men in your family growing up.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing to think about. I grew up in New Jersey, in a very conservative Catholic Sicilian household. Conservative in the sense politically, and like, you know, folks who were bigots were around a lot. that kind of sense. And it was a like pretty toxic environment. The space that men took up contributed to a pretty toxic environment. And also I was surrounded by this like energy, right? When I was growing up, Sopranos was huge, right? Like cultural phenomena. It's a big part of growing up. And in some ways, I looked at these men on screen and I like idolized them.
Sure.
So there was that, right? And also as I have gotten older, I've really realized that this protection that men were supposed to provide in this way that I grew up just fails people over and over again, and it's not real. You know, on TV when you watch, on TV when you watch Sopranos, you know, and they get revenge on something, those are not real things that people can do in real life, right? And if you do, it's very dangerous and not someone that you want to be around. So it's not, that way that men protect is not actually helpful. The way that we as masculine people can provide protection is in emotional stability, regulation, holding space, not going off the handle when someone brings hard information to you, being a rock in that sense. Being rational.
When you say not flying off the handle when someone brings hard information to you, I want to hear more about that, because I have a feeling that I think what you're getting at is maybe the sort of like recentering of men's experiences when they take on that fierce protector role. Is that sort of what you're
Absolutely. And I mean, as I work in sexual assault response, and I've seen a lot of survivors who come in who bring hard information to men in their life, or are contemplating whether they can bring that information to men in their life. And how terrible that you can't access an element of support because you know that they're going to center themselves and make it about them and turn it into something that's not helpful for you.
It'll turn into their revenge and their duty to protect and avenge.
And at its core, it's dangerous. You know, it's pretty dangerous. I grew up in a home where anger was very much something that like spewed through the house. If somebody felt anger or was upset, everyone in the house felt it. And you felt it for months because probably someone put a hole through the wall. And every time you saw that hole, you remembered what someone was angry about.
Right. You'd be reminded. Yeah.
You'd be reminded.
Yeah.
And I grew up thinking that that was how you processed and, discharged your anger and frustration.
Yeah, specifically masculine folks, like that's how you process anger or express anger.
I am not immune to growing up that way. I think that I struggled with it myself. I've definitely put holes in walls. I've definitely used that to discharge my anger. And I think that it meant a lot of things about me because I did that. I think it meant that I was bad. I was inherently bad, or that I was abusive. And I think it's important for people to hear that those are not productive ways to process your anger. And also, it doesn't mean all those things about you. Just to have like a little bit of softness around it. Because oftentimes it is cultural. And you've grown up around it. Totally. And, we got to look at it.
For sure. I mean, that's a really important point, right? That people can employ violence in harmful ways without being abusers, right? And I think, right, there's something really important about reflecting on abuse and really thinking about which of our behaviors are connected to larger patterns of abuse. And there is something that I think there is something that makes that reflection harder when we equate a bad choice with abusiveness.
Yes. Yes. It can just be so limiting for us and prevent people from really being able to look at it and make changes.
Sure.
And thankfully, I have a lot of privileges that allowed me to look at it. I have a partner who was willing to sit in that with me and confront me about it. And I had access to therapy and mental health care to really be able to process it. And also something else that's really important to me is needing to discharge a feeling is actually okay. It's something that I've learned through therapy is that it's okay. Sometimes, like, one of the things that I've used is I've taken ice cubes and I've thrown some ice cubes outside. And, there's a way that you can discharge some of what you're feeling in a less dangerous way, in a less hurtful way. So that you don't have to look at a hole in a wall.
Right. Yeah. And I think that there's something too about transparency and vulnerability versus volatility, right? There's something about letting your partner in on what's going on for you, right? There's a difference between getting into an argument and, feeling the need to discharge those big feelings that are coming up and not saying anything. Right. So that it's sudden, it's violent, it's bewildering and confusing for the other person involved. There's a big difference between doing that and saying, hey, I'm feeling really activated right now. I'm going to go outside and I'm going to throw some ice cubes around. This is not directed at you. This is just a way for me to work through the feelings that I'm feeling right now. I'll be back if you just give me 5 minutes. I just need to get it out of my body.
Totally.
Right? There's something very different between those two scenarios.
Absolutely.
That's worth paying attention to.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, we ask everyone this question at the end of our time together. So I want to ask you, what does healing look like for transmasculine folks?
Yeah, I think that there are a lot of ways to answer this probably. I think that it's being able to, or learning to stay in discomfort enough to get to what you're actually feeling. And just staying in it long enough, sometimes if it can feel so unbearable but staying in the hardness long enough to get to what you're actually feeling teaches you how to do that skill. And once we're able to hone in that skill, it's so much easier to navigate the hardness of life. I think it's a really important thing to know that there is more below the iceberg, not just above it.
Yeah.
And to give yourself a little bit of grace and leeway.
Yeah, for sure. It takes a lot of patience to stay in it long enough to get to that other side of it, right? Because I think so often we want to bail on the worst parts of it, the parts that feel so hard. But you're right. I think that there's something there about learning to stay in it long enough for it to soften over time, right?
Yeah. I think the only other thing that I would also say is that it's also good to like not live with everything being so loaded all the time, and having outlets where you don't have to be so keenly aware of the space what you're bringing to a space. For me, I really enjoy sports. It's been a resurgence thing for me. Growing up, I was really into sports. I think as I discovered my queer identity, there was a lot of shame that I felt around sports. So,
like watching sports,
even wanting to play sports, you know, all of those things. So it's been very healing for me to kind of allow myself to re-emerge into this space in a way that feels authentic and also not toxic.
Yeah. What are the ways that you were maybe worried about it being toxic?
Yeah. Well, I think that there's just like an inherent bro-y thing that is connected to sports in general. And so much comes with the word bro, right? Like there's a lot connected to that. And I didn't want to be associated with that.
Sure.
I was I actually, when I was working in New York, there was somebody who called me a bro lesbian.
Oh, whoa.
And I was like,
okay.
Am I a bro lesbian? It felt very, very personally attacked by this.
Did not feel gender affirming.
Did not feel gender affirming. Did not feel affirming in like any ways. So I think that really is what pushed me away from sports. Yeah. And you know, now I get to like be a part of it in a way that feels good.
Yeah, because it's at the end of the day, it's just something that you enjoy, and you want to be able to enjoy it freely without it having these like larger implications around what it means about you. And you're also not skipping your kid's birthday party to watch a football game. Right. That's very different than than just, wanting to know how your team did, or, what the standings are, those kinds of things. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Right on. Bro lesbian, wow. Cool. Well, as we wrap up today, I thought we could play a little game. Okay. If you are down.
Already?
Yes. Well, let's get into it. So I think folks will probably notice that you have a lot of really beautiful tattoos. And so I thought we could play a little game called Tat for Tat. And so I want you to imagine that you meet a masked person at a club. Okay. And they have the tattoo that I'm going to show you. Okay. And you tell me if you're going home with them or if you're leaving them at the club. Okay. Okay. So the first one I'm going to show you is this one. You tell me, are you going home with this person, or are you leaving them at the club?
I am absolutely not going home with this person.
Can you describe it for us a little bit, what you're seeing?
It's maybe like a bunny cartoon with X'd out eyes. Okay. I will say, I think there was a time in my life where I might have taken this person home. But me today, I'm not taking this person
No, do you want to know who it is?
Wait, Wait, this makes so much sense.
Okay, these are all celebrity tattoos that I'm going to show you. Okay.
This makes so much sense. And 100% I would have taken him home at some point in my life.
Yeah. Sorry, Billy Joe Armstrong.
Incredible.
Okay. All right, the next one I'm going to show you is this one. Is this a red flag, beige flag, green flag?
We're looking at the statue here with the wings.
You're looking at all of it. But the statue, it's like almost like a Virgin Mary situation.
But also she's smoking weed.
But also she's smoking.
I think I'm taking this person home.
Yeah? Okay.
Also, I'm really into the boxing
intrigued?
Gloves above.
Oh, yeah.
But paired with the butterflies, there's something about it. I feel like it would be really fun. They're definitely a switch. This person's definitely a switch.
It's Pete Davidson?
Oh, 100%. That makes so much sense. Abby would be so happy.
I love it.
She loves him.
It. Staten Island?
Oh, Staten Island,
yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, this is the second to last one. All right. It's just a single tattoo, this one. What does this one say?
Nature ran her course.
Yes.
Okay, I love the feminine correlation to nature here is really beautiful. I'm a little nervous that this is like a minimalist tattoo and then they're gonna have like a big neck tattoo somewhere, which I don't I feel like you have to earn a little bit of, getting a face or neck tattoo, but if you only have these minimalist tattoos, I'm gonna be annoyed by it.
Wow.
So, I'm gonna err on the side I'm gonna take this person home because I love everyone, generally.
I believe that. That's Megan Rapinoe.
Oh, okay. Okay, great. So I'm on board because, she doesn't have like bigger tattoos somewhere else. I like that it's just one and done, a little minimalist. I'm into it.
Okay, great. This is the last one I'm gonna show you.
Okay.
And I want you to tell me, are you taking this person home or are you leaving them at the club? And can you tell us what you're seeing?
I'm seeing a portrait of like half of a woman's face with lips with a cigarette hanging out, which I think I had this poster in my apartment at one time. 100% I did.
Yep.
Also with a tattoo underneath that says bad.
Yeah.
I think I'm taking this person home.
I hope so, because it's G-flip.
There we go, baby. I'm taking this person home 100%. Let's go.
Okay, great. Amazing. Okay, you did great. 4 out of 4. I don't know what the scoring criteria was, but you aced it. Thank you so much for just coming and chatting with me. I really appreciate just hearing all the brilliant things that you have to say about masculinity, and just I'm so happy to be your friend and to know you.
Thank you, dude. Thank you for inviting me here. Thank you for including me in this. Again, like I really do feel like an imposter sometimes, and you continuously like bring me in to community, and it's very affirming for me, and I really appreciate it. And I think that this space that you've created for people to talk about these topics are one of the many things that we are missing to like heal the world. So I appreciate it.
I appreciate that. Right on. Well, thank you so much for joining us for Masculinity in Conversation. We'll see you next time for the next one.